Oh yeah, that's ready to come off. Hey y'all, Jason here with Dirt Race Life. We're going to pull these composite leaf springs off because we need to tear all of this protection down that's on them, do a thorough inspection on them, and then if they're good, wrap them back up. I'm going to show you a few things about them along the way. I'll make a suggestion right here. Before you go and just get an impact and hit these nuts, take a brush. If you can remember to hit them with a wire brush, hit them with a little bit of oil, make a huge difference on their life and get them to last, because it seems like every time I turn around, I'm buying these U-bolts. Now we're going to do the same thing on these calipers like I talked about on the front before it's over. I'm going to put some clamps on them where I can push them both in. I'm going to change the fluid out. If you're paying attention, you're noticing something's wrong right here. There are no U-bolts going down across on this right rear to this leaf spring right here. Instead, I have got bolts, and these plates right here are clamping and squeezing to this leaf spring. The reason for that is because at one time, I ran the FastBoy system on this car. Now, if you don't know what the FastBoy system is, it's where on a leaf spring car, you have the right side floated. So the right side is bolted to the leaf spring, but able to rotate. And all of your torque is having to be controlled when the rear end wants to wrap up by the left side spring, and creates a tremendous amount of forward bite. But it has a lot of issues. It can be very unpredictable to drive, especially if you have a lot of traffic on the track that you're trying to negotiate. Overall, here's my opinion on that system. I don't recommend it. The window for being drivable and making it work consistently is just too hard to hit. I did it for 2 solid years. I got away from it. And so even though this still looks like a FastBoy, everything has been welded up all the way around. But be warned, it is a very challenging and difficult type setup to make work successfully. All right, you've been warned. This is a Hyperco Composite Leaf Spring. Now this one right here on the left rear was a 225-pound rate is what it was. And there's a real big advantage that this composite leaf spring has over a multi-stack leaf. This spring originally advertised 4.5 inches of true arch. What is true arch? Well, true arch is from center of eye to center of eye, that imaginary line that would go across, from there down to the pad. That is the true arch of a spring, all right? When you lay it down on the ground, it's 1 inch from the ground up to that center of eye on these springs. It's different according to the brand, which spring it is. But anyway, it's 1 inch on this one up to the center of the eye. And when I measure this today, that's 5.5 inches measurement to the floor minus the 1 inch. You're looking at a leaf spring that has run at least 3 full seasons. 2 of those with a FastBoy system, you know, pulling on this left side, and yet it still has the exact same arch as the day it was brand new. That is the benefit of a composite leaf. If they're not cracked, split, or broke, they will not be changed in rate and arch any at all. If this arch has changed, I guarantee you the spring is broke. Something's wrong. And that's the real benefit to it. But there's some trade-offs. A lot more expensive, more than twice the price of a stacked steel leaf. And they are fragile. If you take a really hard hit, like somebody T-bones right into your left rear, or if you like slam into the wall on a track or something like that, you can break these springs. Me personally, I think it's well worth it. They are consistent on the track. A little bit less forward bite in a composite leaf spring versus a fresh multi-stack steel. The reason for that, the front of the leaf, and even on multi-stack, your front of your leaf is where the torque is happening. So when your rear end is twisting up, when you're on the power, this part right here is flattening out, you know, and then this is acting like your spring in the back to like hold the car up. That's kind of, you know, how you think about how leaf springs work. And a multi-stack steel leaf, the back of these leaves can move and twist with each other, and all of the multi-stack layers can allow it to have more give in that torquing process. And so you can get a little bit better forward drive out of a multi-stack steel leaf than you can get out of a composite of the same rate. That's something that I've observed. It's also feedback I've gotten from others that have went back and forth between them. Everybody says the same thing. I can put fresh steel leaves on, and I definitely have got more forward drive. I don't think that that trade-off makes the steel worth it. In my opinion, the consistency of having the exact same rate of it not losing any arch means that like my bite setup, my cross wedge in the car and everything, week to week is not changing, and that's going to let me dial the car in and really get it tuned to fit my driving style and what I need very precisely. And I think that far outweighs the difference in forward drive. Now, I'm not going to say there aren't times that I've been on a dry slick track that I've been like, man, I need more forward drive. But I think overall, it's a good trade. You just have to know what you're signing up for. Now, with all that said, let's go get the tape off of them. Make sure there's nothing going on here that we need to be concerned about. This is a tedious process. This is one of these things where it's going to take a couple hours to do it. So don't get in a rush. You know, don't start trying to use a razor blade or something and scoring it up. Because like with me here, I had went both, like you see, it's got multiple layers. All right, so why all the duct tape? Why all the duct tape? Well, these springs, like what can shorten the life of this spring? Rocks from the track beating up the bottom of it is reducing the structural integrity of the spring. And so that is like the #1 thing why you'll see everybody say on composite springs, hey, you gotta wrap them up, you gotta wrap them up, you gotta wrap them up. Well, it's true. You do need to wrap them up. And the reason for it is because this bottom right in here will get beat up. You'll have rocks and stuff that chip. Well, there's a layer of fiberglass that's in that resin and everything, and if you start breaking those strings in that fiberglass, you're asking for it. And so that's the reason. It does add some strength to it. You know, probably stiffens them up a little bit, but as much as they cost, you know, I want to make sure that if I have to replace one, it's because I broke it, not because I was too lazy to put some duct tape on it. And I use the good thick Gorilla tape is what I use. I don't wimp out on the duct tape that I'm using. I use the good stuff. I got it unwrapped. So what am I going to be looking for here? Any cracks, separations in the actual leaf itself down through here, and it doesn't have any. That's what I'm looking for. If it had split somehow, cracked, any appearance of like delamination where it looks like the layers are coming apart, anything along those lines, I would be thinking, you know, yeah, that's clearly telling me that I've got a problem. It's not going to work. I need to replace it. Everything looks great. It's still super smooth. Like I said, same arch and everything. So no indication of any issue there. My ends, as far as I've had this around in the vise both ways, still rock solid tight. I'm not going to take these ends apart. Those are torqued up from the factory, and I believe this is all glued together, so I don't want to disassemble this. And you know, my rubbers and everything on the ends are fine. Everything's working great. I'm going to leave that alone. My pads here, I can see where that it has squeezed the plastic down and it's kind of turned up on the lips. And these are just like little protective pieces of plastic that are on the outside of it. I'm just gonna take a wire brush, brush the ends of them off and stuff, and leave them alone. They're fine. And I'm not gonna put paint thinner or lacquer or anything on this trying to get this tape residue off, because anything I put on it like that might compromise the type of materials that they use to make these composite leaf springs. So, you know, no brake clean, no lacquer thinners, no rubbing alcohol, no nothing. If I can't rub it off by hand with my fingers, then I am just gonna leave it and I'm just gonna tape right back over it. So this looks really good, and let's tape it up. I'm using the wide Gorilla Tape is what I'm using here, y'all. It's the way I do it. First piece on the bottom, like this. And then the next is start going around it. I just get on an angle like this, and I just pull it tight. And that's why I got it in a vise where I can really pull against it. Have me some angle going in it, and I just do this number right here. Okay, that's the first layer. Oh. So here's the thing, I mean, I've got a solid piece all the way down through here, and then I went this way, and now I'm going back this way, and I'm using this really thick duct tape, you know, that's wide. And I don't know that all of the tight wrapping, I mean, I can't say that, you know, like, yeah, it's adding strength to these and yada, yada, yada. I can't say that that's the difference. I've had great success with my composite leaf springs over the years. And the only thing I can say for sure is, it's not hurting. You see these heads right here on each side of this leaf? This is just molded plastic that is a part of this cover piece on each side that's glued on. If you break one of these off for any reason, don't drill through this and put a bolt. You can't cut a hole through a composite leaf anywhere without it, you know, ruining it from a structural standpoint. And right here is the most critical part. You know, this is where your pad's going on. These are not structural as far as holding your rear end in place. They are just locating the rear end. I promise you, if you have, you know, U-bolts come loose or anything like that, if that rear end wants to slide and move on this leaf, that plastic pin head right there is not going to stop it from moving. It is just for you when you're putting them on and aligning it and stuff to know where to put it. So if you break one of these off, don't drill it out to try to replace it. If you want to glue something on there or whatever to like be able, like say, glue it back on or something where you'll know where to go, that's great. But I have broke these off before. And, you know, I have my pad and my marks. I know where it's supposed to go. I'm using a tape measure, squaring the car up and my wheelbase and stuff. I do not drill through this. Don't do that. You're going to ruin the leaf if you drill through this to put a bolt through it. It's going to break. We've got this one done. We've got one more that we're going to do. All wrapped up. Like I said, I used Gorilla Tape, and I've got like 3 layers on this. And we've gotten several years out of it, and I hope to get several more. I don't know that they won't last pretty much forever as long as you don't ever crack or damage them in any way. I've just really been satisfied with how the composite leaves work for me. Some of that could be luck, because if you take a hard enough hit, I do know you can destroy these. But the reliability and the repeatability that they bring to your setup, I believe, far outweighs that risk. If your track allows you to run either leaf, hopefully this video gave you some insight into whether or not you want to try these out. If you've got a buddy thinking about it, share this video with them. Maybe it can help you to be better informed on that decision. There's nothing wrong with stacked steel leaves. I would happily run them as well. But they take a lot more maintenance, and you have to be aware of how they're changing constantly in your setup. So they bring their own challenges at a lower cost. All right, I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time because today I've got to check the square on this rear end and then get that video out to y'all.